Hi there, and welcome to the Future Makers podcast by MAND. This is where we talk to people from scientific and high-tech organizations with a purpose. I'm Angina Herman, and Nathalie Moral is hiding under the hood to make sure everything runs. Say hi to everyone, Ave.
Hello.
Today we get to speak with Nathalie Moral, founder and CEO of Clima Now, a non-profit foundation that invests in climate projects. Welcome, Nathalie.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
So, tell us, Nathalie, why does Clima Now exist?
Clima Now exists because the climate crisis is one that we have to act upon now. And our name says it already. It's Clima Now and not Clima Later. In the Paris Agreement 2015, the world came together and said we have to do something. And countries committed to a net zero journey. And till 2030, we need to halve our emissions everywhere in the world, also in Switzerland. And it takes everybody to come together, not just one single organization, not one government alone. It will take everybody to get things done and to go through that journey. And for us, this was the founders of Clima Now. It was a calling, like we have to do something now and not just in 10 or 20 years' time. So this is a window of opportunity we also have to shape the future. And to be the change maker we need to be for our future generations as well.
So tell me, what is it that you actually do? So you're a foundation. You're not actually. Our intro says we talk to scientific and high tech organizations. You're technically not that, but you do support scientific and high tech organizations, for example. So how do you make this change?
Yes. I mean, we're a foundation by structure, so that allows us to give different means of financing. But we're a venture by heart and culture. So we try out different things and we work very much like a venture, pivoting, trying out ideas, failing, getting up again, and trying again. But what we do in essence is we support climate solutions in different areas like energy transition, food and agriculture, carbon drawdown. So that's where it's very technical. We do that through both investments. So we have one leg in the venture capital industry and the other leg in philanthropy, where through the charitable structure allows us to give grants and donations into nonprofit organizations. So we create direct impact through supporting those innovative solutions on one hand. And then we also believe in systemic impact. So that's where it gets really important, but also fluffy in terms of you cannot measure exactly what happens, but nevertheless, it's important. What does that mean? It means that you try to shape the regulatory environment, policies, and advocacy that surrounds all those innovations that you support on one hand. And on the other hand, we also build up a community. I want to mobilize people to engage in becoming active in thinking about solutions. So we're all about solutions in every area that we engage in. Our credo is we believe in solutions, and the solutions are the ones that will shape the future.
So what are some examples of what kind of projects have you supported in the past?
We have supported projects that we have invested in a venture that has powdered oat milk, for example, which reduces packaging and logistics. We have invested in energy solutions that help to have mini grids in multi apartment houses. We have supported just recently a company that produces cheese out of real amino acid from milk, but doesn't need milk to reproduce again. So through precision fermentation, which is really interesting. So the future of of food is really interesting at the moment to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we see a lot of movement. We have also supported nonprofit things like a project here around the corner in Mönchaldorf, which is called Hoflabor, which is regenerative agriculture um, practices that they're showing there on the farm, but also developing more standardized concepts for other farmers to be able to transition their own farms. So that is super interesting to us. Things that have the potential to scale and to multiply, rather than staying on a very regional basis.
So this sounds like a very ambitious project. Have you all, so how long have you guys been around, and have you already been able to see the results of your work, or you keep a tally of all the impact, or the, I don't know, the temperature that you have been able to reduce, or how's
The
it been
temp,
so far?
yeah. Well, the temperature with Um, well, we are at already more than 1 degree above the temperature that we're
Hmm.
and we're trying to get to 1.5 degrees. So no, we probably haven't been able to reduce temperature at this. I don't think anybody has at this point.
Mm.
But yes, of course, we look at impact. That's important. We sit with our ventures and go with them through a quite rigid and rigorous process to really understand, what is your hypothesis for your solution? What is the problem that you're tackling, and how can you um, measure what impact you create? And that is really important to us because we're a what we call a patient investor. So we are not aiming for the hockey stick in returns, but more in the hockey stick of impact. We see, on the other hand, the ventures and organizations on the nonprofit side that are really interested in engaging in this conversation, because for them, it also gives them a proof of concept and enables them to also convince other donors and investors about their own concept and solution to fund in the future what they're doing. So yes, we have, you know, we are young. You asked, we haven't been around for that long. We've been around for 2.5 years now, and so most of the things take time. And I think the
Hmm.
success is when you can try out things and they work, and sometimes they don't work, and it's still a success because you will pivot it and it will work in a new way. And this is how we also want to engage with the ventures we work with, giving them the understanding that it is a journey. We need to make sure we look at impact, but also we're not just going to drop them as like a hot potato if it doesn't work out immediately. So that it's a journey, and the success lies in the very small steps that are successful in themselves. Which doesn't mean that in 10 years' time we need to see some real success. Otherwise, no. Back to the Paris Agreement. It's not just all fluffy. It's like real numbers that we need.
Hmm. I had a question about the support you provide for the different companies and associations. What kind of support is it? Do you coach? Do you give financial support? Do you walk them through building a business? How does this happen?
Well, on the where we talk about direct impact, so where we invest or donate, it's
Hmm.
primarily financing. So
Hmm.
on the investment side, we take equity, so we give money for equity, and on the donation side, we give out grants. Now, there's what we do in addition is we have with them this impact conversation. We help them, define their impact more clearly. We have it verified through a third party, so we help them engage on that, and that will help them in the future financing rounds as well. On the other side, where we talk about systemic change, where we have Spotlight, which is the annual awards that we're running, asking the community to come up with their own ideas. There, we give out financing as well, but then also in the course of the following year, they receive coaching and mentoring from different people, but through a approach and collaboration with the One Planet Lab and the Impact Hub here in
Hmm.
Zurich. So we have like a boot camp that we're running them through, because one thing is to have an idea and the other thing is to really form an organization or a project around it to really make it fly or implement it. So we, depending on where we engage, we give different levels of support.
Mhm.
So how do you choose the ventures that you support, invest in, or in a way? Do you get a lot of? Do you have to refuse a lot of applications?
We do. We do. We have an investment committee for the investment side of things, where we have people from our own organization, from our board, but also external investment committee members. And we meet once a month. We look at what we call the pipeline, the interesting ideas. We collaborate with a venture capital fund that acts as our investment manager. That's Übermorgen Ventures. They're also in Zurich. We're very close with them, and so we together discuss, in the investment committees, the different solutions, and then invite the founders to come in and present. Um, and right now we see that there's a lot of very interesting ventures around,
Mm-hmm.
more than we can finance, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good sign. For us, that's super interesting. On the nonprofit side, we had to do some reflecting and learning. So we said the things we're looking for, we're really looking at impact. We're really looking at those focus areas. We know it's difficult, but still we're having those criterias, and we don't receive that many things that are relevant to us. So for us, we made that strategic decision to not take unsolicited applications anymore, but to be
Okay.
more proactive, as in this is what we're looking for, and then send out a request for proposal, and then hopefully get more relevant nonprofit ideas in.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a call going happening right now, or?
Not yet, not yet. We're actually in the making of, thinking what is the first topic we will choose, and then what's
Mm-hmm.
the request for proposal we will send out next year.
Okay.
The spotlight call is closed now.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the
Yeah.
award that is running. It's also clear what the finalists are, and who will be on stage on the 26th of October.
Yeah. Tell us a bit more about the spotlight. So it's an annual award. It's now your third time. I think this year's theme is food print,
The
like you mentioned already,
footprint,
the food production.
yes, yes. Um, well, spotlight in general is for us this way how we say we democratize some decision making with the community. Why is that important? Because if you want people to have agency, to really be engaged, you can't just ask them for money or their opinion and then something will change. We believe you need to give not just a voice but also a vote. And in Spotlight, we ask the community to come up with ideas. And so the ideas come not only from, established ventures, but also from people who say, you know what, I have a market stand somewhere. I could do this. I could add this or idea to it. And they start thinking about these ideas through Spotlight, which is great. And then we curated a process where we have different points of decision making through a jury that is competent and experienced. But then also at some point, when the jury decides which ideas shall get on what we call the wall of fame, then they're up there for a couple of weeks, and then it's in the hands of the ideas but also in the hands of the community to spread the word, to get people to vote for them, and then the public voting decides which seven will get on stage and get the chance to pitch on the live event. And that creates a lot of buzz and creates a lot of engagement in the community. And that's, for us, is always a very exciting moment. We had around 8,000 people voting this year for their darlings. And so Spotlight for us is always this, this moment where we can actually get into a dialogue with the community, and it's vibrant. And we're all always excited how many ideas we will get and how many votes.
Nice. I was proudly one of the people voting.
Oh, thank you so much. That's great. You should come to the event. If you haven't received an invitation yet, I'll make sure you get one.
Amazing. Thanks.
So is the event, it's open to public or to the voters, or what's the, or do you stream it perhaps for those that live far away?
We did that during Corona times, and that worked really well. Then we thought we'll just keep streaming, and then we had like 10 people tuning in. We said, no, maybe that's not worth it. Maybe let's just do it online, offline. Also, we see and feel that people appreciate meeting in person these days. And so it's a combination, to come back to your question, it's a combination of so some people we really want to have there and we invite them, but also half of the people that will be there are from the community. So we're also asking those ideas on stage, those teams, to invite their crew and their fans. We also gave out tickets to the community. You could win tickets. So we really want to have this community feeling in the Spotlight event. So it's not a closed event, but it's also not like public. So we're reaching out to the community and want to see as many people as possible cheering for their darlings on stage.
Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about the community here. I'm curious, and you mentioned earlier this goal of having 100,000 people mobilized. So, what do you mean? Well, first of all, what does it look like when 100,000 people are mobilized, and who are these people? What is your community?
This is a very good question, and I started this conversation here by saying we pivot a lot and we learn and we fail. So the community piece has been a very difficult one, very honestly, because exactly what does it mean to have an engaged community? And these days, where everybody has a platform, everybody wants to have a crowd for something, the attention is spread very, very widely, so, or thin, and so for us it was always a big question mark, and we've been chasing an idea that we couldn't really nail down. And I'm being very honest here. This is, for us, it has been a bit of it was a strength, but also a weakness, because we couldn't figure it out. And then at some point we realized we're chasing a community that doesn't exist, and we don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So what is it that we can really work with? And then we realized we have a community. We have a community and we're not working with them. So Spotlight is our community. It's the third year we're running this. We have like 200 ideas that came flying in total, or more than 300 actually in those 3 years. And around those ideas, there's people. And so far we did Spotlight, and then that was it, in the next Spotlight. And then we were chasing a community on the other side, where we're like, hold on, we have a community. We just have to do something with them. And this is a realization we had just a couple of months ago. And so what we're doing now is we're asking ourselves exactly that question. Who is our community? It's people who have engaged with us through Spotlight. Those are the ones that are in the core, the most engaged ones. And we want to nurture that, all the vintages of Spotlight, through an alumni network where they can meet, where they can exchange their experiences and ideas, and where we can sit with that community and understand what is it that you need to get to the next level. So rather than us defining what the community should be doing, we really want to sit and listen, and then decide and design what the alumni community should be doing. And the 100,000 for us is basically the big number. right? But you
Mm.
cannot mobilize 100,000 at the same time. So what you need to do is you need to mobilize the champions, the ones that are already convinced or just need a little bit more. And those for us are the spotlight givers or ideas. And they will mobilize more people with their ideas. So for us, the very core is Spotlight at the moment, and the Spotlight
Mm-hmm.
alumni over the course of all those years. Um, and then we hope that this movement will transpire to other people as well. It's a very hard nut to crack. It's a
But
very
it's
easy one to talk about, but to really crack it, it's one of the toughest ones, I have to say.
yeah. But it also sounds kind of beautiful to be doing community building and trying to figure out who your community is and then realizing that it already exists. You just need to reach out.
Yes, and sometimes it's you can't see the forest before the trees,
Yeah.
and that was an eye-opening moment for us. And I think one of the things about us is that we're also super honest about
Mhm.
where we are and our work, and so this is an example. My team probably when they listen to this podcast will cringe, like, well, how can she talk about this on air? But I think it's everything is a journey, and so we're super open and transparent about it, and we think it's the fastest way how you can learn. And when others
Mhm.
listen to this, I hope they will say, oh yeah, okay, it's normal to feel that way, or let me reach out to Natalie and tell her how
Mhm.
we do this, because if
Mhm.
you don't talk about it, how else would people hear and know about it?
Yeah, and I think especially with a topic like climate and climate change, you even as a person who believes it in making a change and believes that I can make a change just by myself and just by spreading the word, etc., you hit so many walls. So it's kind of relieving to hear that it also happens on a bigger scale. That is not just me who's sometimes failing, sometimes there are successes, but it just happens. It's just the work.
Yes, I think, I mean, especially in climate change, it's overwhelming, right? The big issues, and especially when you talk about a systemic problem, then
Hmm.
you quickly go into being inactive because you feel you're so overwhelmed. Nothing,
Absolutely.
nothing can make a change, and I think that's what is needed also in this whole conversation, having mm, the openness and the honesty about it being a journey, and
Hmm.
then also being supportive. There's a lot of finger pointing of who's not doing what. What you're vegetarian, you should be vegan. What you're
Mm-hmm.
still flying, you shouldn't be
Yeah.
flying at all, no matter how much you reduced. And this dogmatic, judgmental way will be in the way on either side. So
Mm.
this polarization doesn't really help to find
Hmm.
ideas. It just results in fighting, which
Yeah.
you need that energy sometimes. And I think one of the bigger scientists here in Switzerland told me once, Greta probably um, was a lot more, not probably, she was more successful in conveying a message than any of the scientists for the 30 years before her.
Hmm.
And I think that's very true. But also for each phase, you need a different energy. And I think we're now entering a phase where we need to talk about solutions, and we need to talk about a future narrative.
Hmm.
Um, and and what your role can be in this, and what change you want to promote, and what future vision you see, and having a positive narrative of a future that doesn't only tell you what you cannot do is super important, and there's not enough of that. And that's another soft topic that is very hard to get done.
Hmm.
So shaping a future vision sounds again very fluffy, but it's
Mm.
it's it's a very hard thing to do, and we need more positive examples, that are honest examples, not idealized, but honest
Mm.
examples people and companies and governments can relate to. So you need that
Hmm.
on each level.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned Greta and reaching a new phase, because I mean that's what's been a bit in the papers recently how this Fridays for Future is no longer as popular, and the youngsters of today have lost steam and are not. The climate conversation seems to have lulled a little bit. Is that your experience as well, and or how do you see it happening?
I don't think it's less loud. I think it changed a bit. Also, of course, when pressing and immediate issues like wars come up, or corona crises over the
Hmm.
last years, it's always the immediate threats that are more imminent, and then
Hmm.
climate change is far away, or that's what it seems, for many people. But I do think there is more sense of urgency than 5 or 10 years ago, in the climate change conversation. But I do think it has changed a bit, and people are getting, I think, also tired of fighting
Hmm.
everywhere, and so extreme point of views, and polarizing activities and actions usually don't get much done. So if you throw tomato sauce to an art piece, you're not going to mobilize the people that are not in your bubble, and that's what it's
Hmm.
about. We need to get out of our bubble and stop preaching to the choir. We need to convince people and engage people that are somewhat in the middle of the conversation, that are not against it but also not fundamentalists. And through fundamental actions, or extreme actions, it's hard to mobilize that middle.
Hmm.
Having said that, I love it when shareholders of oil companies make a stand together and say, we don't accept your net zero targets, and put healthy pressure on companies. So that shows that also, with having a small share but standing together, you can really move something. So I'm not saying that is wrong. I just think we need to rethink how we hold a conversation. And it's just, there's no one single bullet, single silver bullet, if I could say it right,
Hmm.
that will solve this. It's more complex than that, unfortunately. And so we have to sit together and think about what a future scenario looks like in different topics. And it's not easy.
So the Klima Now approach is not about shocking people awake and having these apocalyptic images of what could happen unless you act, but more of a positive and, I don't know, almost like a nudge way, or is that your philosophy? Try to get people, make it
Yes, I think.
easier to do a good thing.
Hmm, we always say, we believe in solutions. That's our credo. And in everything we do, it's about showing and showcasing solutions and finding them. And we really believe that it helps people to engage if you're solution oriented rather than problem oriented. Again, I think we need all the scientists that do tell us, how what the problem really looks like and what it is. We probably need that still need the Greta energy.
Hmm.
But for us, we said we believe in solutions, and we try to mobilize people through solutions and through engaging and thinking of their own ideas. And that's what we're about.
So who exactly are we? I mean, I'm definitely gonna get to you personally. Who are you, and what do you? How did you get here? But like, what is Klima Now? Who are the people behind it? How did this get started?
It started with an engagement many years ago. For many years already, I've worked with a family here in Zurich, the family Miley, and I think together we got to that point where we said we want to focus on one of the SDGs, of the Sustainable Development Goals, that is the most pressing one, and there's this window of opportunity to really change the course of action. and it's climate. And with the family Miley together, we said, let's do something in climate, which was an idea 3.5 years ago, more or less. And
Mm-hmm.
on 2 pages, we wrote down what is Clima Now today. Not exactly what it is today, but in its essence, I think. And we were
Mm-hmm.
able to convince two other people, Tobias Ries and Rudi Gerber, to be part of this new venture and this idea, and they engaged with us. And so we started to build Klima Now, in a way that every venture would be jealous. They committed funding, based on an idea, and really a 2-page document, and then gave me also the trust, and together the trust to build up a team, and show that this idea can actually be implemented and be brought to life. So it's Klima Now is really a venture that was born out of several people, and has gone through a quite extensive journey of change for the fact that we're only 2.5 years old.
Then on you personally, I mean, I was checking out your CV or your background and all, and I saw that you studied business administration in St. Gallen. And actually, we're recording this during the Zurich Film Festival, and there's this really interesting documentary, The Driven Ones, that is about students in St. Gallen who study the prestigious. I don't remember what the name of the master program was, but essentially very hardcore business people. And you then also worked at a couple of consultancies, so you could have gone very very deep into making money and having this sort of, I don't know, almost yuppie style business career, but you then pivoted quite soon into more ethical and purposeful investing. So why was this your direction? Did something particular spark it, or were you always interested in going this way?
I'm generally, as a person, interested in growth. So I would always choose the path of growing personally and professionally. And for me, every step in my career was about that. Where can I grow more? Where can I add something to my backpack? Where can I add tools and experiences? And so for me, choosing St. Gallen was really this gives me the broadest spectrum of options, because I didn't want to be
Mm-hmm.
too narrowed down. And then going into working with PwC in London, helped me understand finance, and being very nerdy on spreadsheets, and learning the very basics.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to Bain and Company, being super broad, but in strategy consulting, you work hard, you learn a lot, and it's a tremendous network also that will last
Mm-hmm.
for the entire lifetime, really. For me, at some point, it was, as you say, where do I want to be doing that for the next 20, 30 years of my career? Do I want to make profitable companies a little bit more profitable? Is that the purpose of everything that I've learned? Do I apply this, to this cause? And what is my personal footprint when I look behind after each project I worked on? And in that moment, I had a conversation with a former Bainey, who had just received the mandate from the royal family of Liechtenstein to set up impact investing, or let's say venture philanthropy
Mm-hmm.
practice for their family. And I remember that conversation. It was a dinner, um, and he asked me, Natalie, you speak Spanish, right? And I said, yes. He's like, would you want to go to Colombia, Bogota, for a year? I said, well, I haven't thought about it, but yeah, why not? I could. And so I did, and I went to work for a organization that was working in education, and I helped them with their financial planning and strategy and so on. And for me, that was very enriching, because for me it was the first time that I got out of that consulting lens. And also, for me, it was one of the few times after that I always was on the investment side of things, or the money giving side. So for me, that experience was good to be on the nonprofit organization side that has to, face a lot of challenges in everyday life, and has donors on the other hand asking for reports and having sometimes unrealistic demands because they don't understand the context enough. So for me, that was a super good experience. Was also I was the guinea pig for a fellowship that afterwards was developed,
Uh-huh.
at LGT Venture Philanthropy. And then I joined as investment manager, again, being on the money side of things, looking for solutions that could be supported with either grants or investments in Latin America. And for me, that was really a nice way how to step out of the consulting world into something that I consider more purposeful for me, but I was still able to apply what I had learned. And that for me is always crucial. So for me, it was never an option to just check out and go to Africa and teach English or something like
Mm.
that, because that's not what, definitely not what I'm good at, but it's also not what my skills are. And I think
Yeah.
everybody should use their skills and experiences, their tools that they're bringing, rather than trying to do something completely different. Just applying
Hmm.
what you do and what you're good at in a different context is a lot more impactful.
Yeah, and it's also nice that you don't have to feel guilty for, doing your work, doing what you enjoy, and that making a positive impact in the world doesn't mean you have to somehow martyr yourself.
Exactly, exactly, and that's super important what you're saying, because I actually read a book that was during that time that had a compilation of interviews of social entrepreneurs, was called The Future Makers, and
Ooh,
yeah,
competition.
competition. And what really inspired me was that all those people came from different regions and from different backgrounds, and but they were heading towards something that was purposeful, or they were already in it. And then I felt inspired that, even me, as mean consultant, could get some can get a positive spin in my career. No, I'm
Huh.
kidding. um, but it was very inspiring. Also, in the course of my of the years afterwards, I did meet some of those entrepreneurs, which was really nice to put a real face and a real person behind those stories. So
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of stories, and I think they should be told more and more. That's what people are interested in real stories rather than shiny marketing.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, we definitely believe in stories here at Mand.
Yes, that's very true.
All right. I'm actually getting ready for my final question, but is there anything from Ave that you would like to ask?
No, I think I'm good. I'm always in the end of these podcast episodes, I'm just reflecting on people and how inspiring they are. And also how much I relate to you wanting to do good things and having a business background, because I this autumn started an MBA for exactly this reason, because I was like, I'm so interested in climate and I'm not a business person, but I want to make an impact. And I think the way to make an impact, one way is could be business, through business and through all the knowledge that I could share, and also by being a good leader and having an impact. So it has been a really nice conversation to hear how you're actually doing this.
Thank you, thank you. Um, I'd be happy to hear more about your journey at some point.
Excellent.
That's a good point. I feel because also, I mean, I've worked in marketing. Well, Ave and I both worked in marketing as well as communication, and it does have a bit of a ugly reputation. It's considered, you're fooling people, you're trying to trick them into doing something they don't want to do, or you're trying to,
Mhm.
collect their data, and I mean that also happens. I mean, it's not based on nothing, but it doesn't need to be just that. So there is a lot of soul searching, like how do I stay proud of what I'm able to do and proud of my skills and really,
Hmm.
have my values, and also then make other people believe that I actually do have some values and I am not here
Yeah.
to fool people, but try to, I don't know,
Yeah.
bring forth ideas that are worth spreading and putting all my energy into doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think by being honest, many people say, yeah, we have to be honest and transparent, but it also means that in a given conversation, you can just also share the things that didn't go so well. So everybody's asking about successes, and talking about failures is also important. Or what have we learned from something that hasn't worked? And and sharing that just makes it more accessible and relatable for other people as well. So
Hmm.
I think that's super important when we talk about examples. And
Hmm.
examples is not always the one that has achieved everything. Also in the venture world, it's all those unicorns that are celebrated, but it's a lot more interesting to talk to those entrepreneurs who have failed a lot more. And also behind every unicorn, there's a lot of failure. So
Hmm.
Hmm.
and you learn from that. You don't learn just from the success. And those real stories are what makes it interesting in a conversation, I feel.
Hmm. Definitely. All right. It's time for the final question of the Future Makers, which is, of course, about the future. So, 10 years from now, Natalie, what will the world look like?
Such a big question to end the conversation. That's a big cliffhanger, you know that, right? So
Mm.
we need another conversation, I guess. Well, look, in 10 years' time, we have, as a world, convened and been able to move the needle for climate, in my view. And this is what it's happening now. It's not happening fast enough, but I do believe we will have moved the needle when it comes to how we talk about energy, how we when we talk about mobility, when we talk about our cities, what they look like, when we look at the way we grow our foods and what kind of food we eat. I think a lot of things will have changed. I think a lot of the changes we see today will have reached a new normal that has not to do with um, having less quality of life, but more quality of life. And I think that switch will have happened, and that mind shift will have happened in society. This realization that the future looks better than the present, and that transition can be painful because people don't like change and it's scary.
Mhm.
But I think in 10 years time we're there where we say, okay, now we see that the future, the vision of the future is a lot more defined, and we're starting to feel how certain solutions are changing the way we live and the way we conduct ourselves. And we also start understanding and feeling that this change is positive.
Thank you. This was a nice final note to end with.
You're welcome.
Very good. All right. So, thank you very much for being our guest, Natalie. It was a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you as well.
And obviously, thank you to all our listeners for getting this far. And if you like hearing stories from people who make the world a better place through science and technology or finance, you're in luck because there's more. So make sure to subscribe to the Future Makers podcast, for example, on Spotify. Until next time.